I think the backlash to this article is bigger than the backlash to the topic of the article. And I want to walk you through why, because the short answer is that the New York Times is supporting a white supremacist maniac who has a slave plantation moral code, essentially. They ran cover for him. They tried to defend him, and now it's all fallen down around them. And the New York Times looks absolutely awful, and they deserve it. And I highly recommend, if you are a subscriber of the New York Times, that you check this out. I'm going to make my case here, and I highly recommend that you unsubscribe and tell them why you're doing it, because, like, this is basically, the New York Times has become a right-wing rag over the years, if it wasn't always one, honestly, because Zionists run the whole thing, both Christian and Jewish Zion. People of all denominations who support Israel run this magazine, and they've been nakedly biased towards Israel, towards Zionism, towards the genocide that Israel is committing. And part of that is smearing Zohran Mamdani. Zionism is extremely Islamophobic. And of course, Mamdani said that he would arrest war criminal Netanyahu if he showed up in New York. He said that he supports Israel's right to exist as a country with civil rights. And of course, the New York Times doesn't want Israel to exist as a state with civil rights. They want it to exist as one where there are no civil rights. So naturally, they've been looking for any angle of attack on Mamdani, who, as far as I can tell, is a squeaky clean candidate. So what did they go after him for? He identified as Asian and African American on his Columbia application. His dad actually worked at that university. I'm not going to really go over the merits of the story, because I think it's very obvious to anyone watching this that this is a nothing burger. This is a ridiculous story. He's going against Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo. Okay, so like this is nothing. No one cares. And if you look at the comments under this story, nobody cares. They're actually extremely upset about what the author of this thing did, which is cover for a white supremacist. And I'm trying to find how he characterized him. He used to say it was that the guy wrote about IQ. Here we go. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, IQ with periods. So this information that they used for the story was acquired by a hacker, basically, who hacked Columbia. And then they saw that this guy, Cremo, actually, hold up. I'm going to be saying it a lot, I guess. So his name is Jordan Lasker. His name is not, that's his. Oh, wait, whoa. Gross. All right, let's see. One sec. Let me see how to pronounce it. Cremieux. Gross. All right. So Jordan Lasker, a Substack white supremacist, fascist, a guy who believes in racial science. Basically, if you've seen Django Unchained, him and Calvin Candy have the exact same beliefs and ideology. Okay. So even though that's who he is, according to the New York Times, he is an academic who opposes affirmative action and writes often about IQ and race. And that almost sounds like a sane human being who could be viewed credibly. But as you're about to find out, that is absolutely not the case. And the author of this, or authors, who was it? Benjamin Ryan, Nicholas Fandos, and Dana Rubenstein are basically laundering race science. They hate Mamdani so much that they are willing to launder the reputation of a man who often writes that black people and Hispanic people are genetically and destined to be intellectually inferior to white people. Okay, so like that is what they're doing, and it's disgusting, and we gotta go over it. Okay, I want you to see, like, first of all, they got a ton of shit for this. So Patrick Healy is one of the, I guess, managing editors in the New York Times. He wrote this like sniveling defense of what he did, saying that this white supremacist, calipers wielding racist freak is exactly the same as the Edward Snowden situation, and obviously no one was buying that. And I want you to see this. Do you remember when Elon Musk he wants to train Grok to be racist, right? And I guess he's been having some success lately, but that's not what the segment's about. He asked people to basically put things that are politically incorrect, but nonetheless factually true. So that comment section is obviously full of the craziest shit you've ever seen. Gross, racist, horrible things. This guy, Jordan Lasker, went on here. He posted no less than like 6 or 7 times under the same post, desperately trying to get this influential AI on Twitter to believe in race science. Okay, so he wrote, the descendants of slaves converge at a pace not distinct from the pace of whites without capital converge towards whites. Poverty and slavery's impact fade out across generations. This is to serve his position, which is that G exists. First of all, G is the idea of like intelligence that exists independent of learning, which is like obviously bullshit if you know anything about anything. Okay, if you know anything about education or biology, you know that's the stupidest idea. And there's no way to measure it, even if it does exist, right? Like G, like the idea of like intelligence before learning, you can just see how it's impossible to measure. But nonetheless, and watch Sean the Skull Guy's video on the bell curve to get like the actual like reasons for that. It's all based on like it's on a foundation of sand. It's like the dumbest thing. It's facially stupid. Okay, like anyone with who's you learn this stuff when you're like 10, you know what I mean? Like there's nature and there's nurture, and anyway, there's no reason to go over it, I guess, because it's been debunked by everyone. But I wanted to show you what he raced breathlessly to write under this post to make sure that the algorithm and that the AI that Elon Musk uses supports this. Talks about, look, the US black-white IQ gap has an extremely large genetic component. Like, he's a disgusting human being. Let's look at more. Like, we got to see, like, look at this. Under the same post, this guy was like crazy about this because he has a big stake in people believing these horrible things. Okay, he's basically saying if you cut out black and Hispanic people, we're a bunch of super geniuses. Ubermenschen over here in the United States. Here he's saying police don't actually kill anyone. He hates BLM, so obviously anything that he can do to discredit the concepts of that. Here's another one. Everyone who dies of murder, everyone who gets murdered is already a criminal, and he lists a bunch of cities that have a lot of black people in them, and this is like a dog whistle to his followers. Look at this, saying that conditional on intelligence, the predicted incomes of black and white men in the US are the same. Literally all of this is debunked. None of this is serious. This guy posits himself as an academic, but he's really not. He's a grad student who may not have even graduated, okay, who's been accused of plagiarism by multiple people. His name is Jordan Lasker. This is the most credible source that I've seen showing this, showing who he is, and numerous people have already said that it's Jordan Lasker running this Cremu account, right? Which is why it's all the worse that the New York Times decided that they knew they could have just said it's Jordan Lasker, but they wanted to defend him because they wanted the attack on Mamdani to be more credible. And they thought that their readers, they think that their subscribers are morons. They think that they're stupid and that they won't look into this guy that they're citing. And a lot of that is because the New York Times is like the newspaper of record for New York City, and honestly for the country in a lot of ways, because of the fact that a lot of politics is kind of downstream of New York City, and a lot of the biggest events in the world are reported on by the New York Times. So they are burning the political capital, the social capital and cultural capital that they have with the people of this country and the people of New York in order to attack Mamdani using race science, okay? And I want you to look at this guy and see if any accounts that you follow him, because you'll be shocked that a ton of liberals are either unwittingly or purposefully spreading the horrible things that he says. And he mixes in a lot of just generic chart bro shit into his posts in order to make sure that when you look at him, you could just see kind of a right-leaning liberal posting about, life expectancy or birth rates or like congestion pricing. Okay, I've seen him do a lot of this, but mixed into that constantly, and the most important mission that Jordan has is to spread race science. That is the only issue that he actually seems to care about. And I really encourage you, if you follow political figures on Twitter, to look into it, because I kept seeing him show up and I was like, who the hell is this guy? He's like out here saying the bell curve stuff. Like, there's no way anyone takes him seriously. But he'll be in the replies of people who are extremely mainstream, and they'll be replying to him like he's just a normal poster or whatever. Like, and I sincerely can't tell how often they know or don't know. Like, for example, the no opinion guy, Noah Smith or whatever his name is, like, I'm pretty sure that guy just thinks that black people are inferior to white people, along with Richard Hanania and others. And I feel fairly confident that when they respond to him, they're totally on board with the stuff that he's saying. So like this guy says, Cremu is a big deal. Jordan Lasker is a big deal in tech circles on Twitter. Elon Musk subscribes to him on Substack. He got famous for this article for Aporia, which is literally like a neo-Nazi Substack. That's literally what put this guy on the map, is his interactions with neo-Nazis, saying that elites are genetically different. Okay? It's... I don't know how this happens, and I think the answer is that there are people who will uncritically consume any graph bro, data bro content, and that needs to stop. People should look at the content that they're consuming and, dare I say, be canceled over it or whatever. Canceling doesn't mean anything, but I think people should confront the fact that they've maybe shared or spoken favorably to a person who would have enslaved potentially many of your friends and family members. I don't know. Maybe that's radical, but that's me. The idea is he's been outed multiple times as being connected to this account because of his academic connections, because of accusations of plagiarism that he's reacted to that were associated with Jordan Lasker. And what's more, if I can pull it up here, his sister recently went on a tirade about him on Blue Sky. His family basically turned on him instantly as soon as this story came out. I'm not a Stancelite myself, but I do believe in Marxism, Stancelism. I critically support Marxism, Stancelism because he constantly shits on MAGA, which I also do. And I think, you know, though I don't agree with the lib shit that he does, I think his view that there should be a constant global jihad against MAGA is based as fuck, and I support it entirely. So critical support to Will Stancil. Chairman Stancil over here. Here is some stuff from Blue Sky from Jordan's sister. Here's someone else saying if he's a grad student at Texas Tech, he's required to graduate. He's required to no graduate program. Okay. He's required to have an advisor, but there's no advisor listed for him. So this person suspects that he dropped out. At which point his sister chimes in, this is what we think too. He told our parents that he defended in spring and got the degree in winter last year, but he didn't walk and he didn't want his family to come out and celebrate, which is super weird. We looked at the graduation program and his name wasn't there. And apparently he's always been a pathological liar. Jordan used to lie in school. In high school, he lied to his family about having a perfect SAT score and about doing well in his AP classes. So when he got rejected from Georgia Tech, his grandfather went to bat for him and all the lies just came out. So this is a guy who's been doing this thing for a long time. He's always been kind of a bullshitter. So of course, isn't it inevitable that a pathological liar and bullshitter would be embraced by a bunch of centrist libs on purpose, by a bunch of conservative tech bro libs and the far right? Isn't that just like the natural endpoint? I feel like he really went from his he went through the ecological cycle from pupa to fail son grad student all the way up to right-wing grifter, his final form, before of course publicly embarrassing himself. Now I guess there's more from Blue Sky, from Booski. One of the worst physical attacks he did in middle school, he and his sister were getting ready to go to school, but when she went to get his backpack, he started bashing her face into a door until her braces broke off, and that this wasn't the only incident. Crazy stuff. Awful. In high school, his parents and his sister discussed plans for how to handle fallout if he committed a event. I won't say it. I shot down all their proposed ideas and said I'd go to the press no matter what. Luckily, his physical violence tapered off and ended when he became an adult. So this is pretty damning stuff from his family. This is the instant his family sees him kind of get into the limelight, like, because obviously he's been like revealed to be Jordan Lasker multiple times, but it took this time, you know, him being in the New York Times, it was big enough, I guess, for them to come out and say what he did. And I also want to note something here because it's come up before on my channel. I'm not a fan of a lot of these centrist lib types because they launder horrible ideas and they want liberals to embrace a suicide pact where they move to the right in order to be the Republican Light Party, in which case, they'd obviously get obliterated, as we saw with the Kamala Harris campaign, but they tried to do that nonetheless. Here's a post from Jordan, paraphrasing a Democratic operative who I won't name. The Democratic Party is now less effective because the pro-Palestine movement was effective at marginalizing the party's Jews, and the party promoted black women to fill the empty spots. Actually absurd. Jewish people are still a strong bloc for the Democratic Party. There's no evidence. As a matter of fact, the evidence points to people across the party writ large being more anti-Israel than ever and being stronger for pro-Palestinian rights than ever. Okay, it's like a 70-30 issue on the Democrat side. Timer 323, welcome to the chat. Thanks for dropping by. Democracy, many exclamation points. Yeah, I vibe with that. Side note, obviously this person won't publicly say this because they're still a Democratic operative. And this is all, of course, this is all retweeting Noah Smith. And I think we don't know for sure who it is, but it is funny that when you look at David Shore, the algorithm recommends Jordan. And David Shore, for those of you who don't know, is in the Matt Yglesias, Ezra Klein extended universe. I've seen him, I've listened to him go on Ezra Klein's show, and I've listened to him give interviews, and his solution is basically we need to destroy trans people in order to be Republicans in elections. He peddled the straight up fake information that there was no turnout issue with the Kamala Harris election 2024, and he said that if people had gotten off the couch to vote, they all would have voted for Trump, which has been proven wrong numerous times. There was a turnout issue among the base that actually, like, if you very clearly, intuitively would have voted for Harris if Harris had an agenda that they wanted. But his political grift, the thing that pays for his bills, is always telling Democrats to go to the right and being paid tens of millions of dollars to do so through consulting contracts. And as Engermentum pointed out, which I appreciate, I like Engermentum. I think he's not always right about everything. I think when it comes to onto Ukraine, for example, we deviate pretty significantly, but like generally like is willing to call out people that I appreciate, and I think he's got, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. We critically support Engermentum, and we critically support Will Stancil on the same stream, so you can't say that I don't give people a chance. This, I don't know how legit this is, but I've seen it come up several times at this point. The custom profile picture that David Shore has used in multiple contexts comes up in image search for this account, which said, "You really can't understand crime without starting with race," which is like the rallying cry of the race scientist. Anyway, David Shore, an account that appears to be David Shore, that like he's never said this isn't him. This got out there. He won't say anything about it whatsoever. And it's hard for me to understand how this custom profile picture would have wound up on two accounts that are not owned by him. I suppose it's possible someone could be like impersonating him or thought this custom profile pic was like good. So I don't know. I think that it raises a lot of questions, and his silence on it is really weird. He's here talking about race realism, and I think when you pair that with what Jordan Lasker was saying, that there's a Democratic operative who essentially agrees with him that everyone is intellectually inferior to white people. And I think actually Jordan Lasker's thing, if you look at his creepy charts, is that actually there's like a hierarchy that has like Ashkenazi Jewish people at the top, and then like the rest of the white, the huddled white masses under that, and then all the the Balkan, the evil Oriental minorities of the East, all below that, and then black people at the very bottom. I think it seems pretty plausible that it would be David, and I think that it's really up that we're in a situation where like these tech bro consultant types are so unprincipled and so they're not devoted to anything. They don't care. They just want to win elections, and they don't even want to do that. You know what I mean? They want to give the perception that they are the ones who are pragmatically cold and calculated and numerically superior to those like weird populists, and it just gives Democrats an excuse to funnel millions of dollars into their consulting firms and think tanks and opinion pieces in order to move the Democratic Party to the right. And I wanted to highlight that there is a relationship between guys like Jordan, who is like, let's be real, his incompetence, his stupidity is the reason we can talk about this. And I think it's very likely that there are people who are talented at covering their asses who aren't total, schizo freaks like Jordan, and they don't get caught. So we got to look at this guy as like the tip of the iceberg and treat it that way. And I do think if you're a centrist liberal and you're sharing this guy, it behooves you to have your sister soldier moment where you say that you don't want anything to do with this guy. He's a freak. You won't interact with him. You won't interact with people who interact with him, because like, if not him, then who? Okay, like Jordan Lasker isn't a guy who has questions about police brutality. He isn't a guy who wants permitting reform. He thinks that there is okay, let me put it to you this way. If Jordan Lasker got his ideal government today of the world, it would be a hideous, evil apartheid state, okay, where we treat people, we infantilize Black and Hispanic people and treat them like a second-class slave race, while we funnel all of the resources to white guys in San Francisco who are known as like the philosopher kings of the world, okay? And you've seen who they actually are. They're not smart, okay? They're like easily led fools who have been told that they're special little boys for too long, getting huge paychecks, and now they're just all getting laid off and replaced by AI, all right? So be careful out there, people. Look at the sources that people are sharing and look at who if you're following someone, if you're interested in political content, as I am, look at the people that are associated with the people you're following. Does that make sense? Like, you got to be careful, because there are people who have a financial interest in peddling very right-wing ideas and making them more normal. And obviously, that's not confined to the right anymore, the far right wing. If you look at like the Trump types, they spent years doing this, where they normalized Nazi stuff, they normalized white supremacist stuff within the Republican Party. And there's a gradient, and there are people on the right center side of that gradient who are trying to do the same to liberals, okay? And they won't stop there. And it seems to be working, mostly because of like tech bro culture in San Francisco. It really seems to be that simple, because this doesn't seem to penetrate in a lot of other places. So like, keep an eye out for this guy. Don't share him. Make sure that everyone knows what he is, and make sure that the New York Times doesn't get away with just like platforming and laundering the reputation of a race scientist.